information about energy and the challenge we have. I'd say mine comes from all sources of media, newspapers, some television, although we don't watch a lot of television, definitely the internet, and friends. I've got a lot of friends that are in the business, in oil and gas, and they certainly have a different perspective than others. But generally that's where we get the information. Who would I trust more, oil and gas companies or environmental companies? I think that I would probably look more to environmental groups or environmental companies, and like anything else, not the extreme right or left of any issue, but there are always groups in the middle that really do have a consciousness and a voice of reason that says, okay, it's not all bad, it's not all good, here is the good and bad. So I think I would trust that more, because any big industry seems to be more inclined to put their foot forward for their industry. They're not going to turn around and say, oh, we're doing all these bad things and we're harming your environment. It's more, look at all the wonderful things we're doing. I tend to tune out when I see the commercials on TV where they're showing, there's an oil sands commercial on right now, where they show all these different employees that are working in the oil sands, and they sign their name afterwards, but it's all warm and joy and fuzzy, and if you looked at that, you'd think, wow, the guy is standing in a clean trailer, he's got on clean coveralls, the ground outside is pristine, the trees, the grass, and he's talking about all he's doing to make things wonderful and safe. And when I see that, I go, that's a load of crap, is how it comes across to me. Yes, they may be doing that to a point, but you're not painting the picture the way it really is. The dialogue to me is when, I would say a lot of times in a debate, where you see people sit down and two common sense points of view come across, where people are talking, here's the facts, here's the environmental issues with it, and you can see that they mesh, as opposed to this is wonderful, this is wonderful, and we're all doing warm, fuzzy things for the environment and all of us around us, because you know that isn't true. All you need to do is look at pictures of the oil sands, for instance, or oil coming out of the Middle East, some of the pictures that you get of the rigs and what goes on around that and how filthy it is, and everybody isn't in clean coveralls, and it's all not joyous, and the grass isn't green around it because they have to tear up the ground to put an oil rig in, or to strip mine, or whatever else they're going to do. I see the future as it's being played right now is I'm not hopeful with what's going on right now. There's a lot of debate, a lot of dialogue, a lot of back and forth, and yet everything just seems to go ahead. Nothing really seems to get done on a sensible level. The debate goes on, the talk goes on, the political chatter, the rhetoric, it just bounces around. And ultimately, political parties seem to do what's politically best, what looks best to the public. When somebody's going back into their constituency, they can say, well, we're voting for, we're working on, and yet it doesn't seem to get done. Am I hopeful that in the future things will change? Yes, because if we have a bigger dialogue and we're more aware, and that's passed on to our children, and when I see my daughter and how conscious she is about what goes on around her, it does give me hope that perhaps we won't solve the issues or problems, but maybe their generation will, and will take it seriously. I think people do things for two reasons: massive inspiration or desperation, and unfortunately most of the time the inspiration is the desperation. And I think when it gets to a critical stage, and hopefully that won't be too late, then people will realize we do have to do something about this, instead of just talking about it, climbing back into our big SUV and driving away.